Well, what, excuse me, is going on YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Hey, I hope you guys are having a great. Hey, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and the like button and all the stuff. It does help the channel, and I appreciate it. I have a steel will on the table. This is the Fjord. Fjord. This is a weird knife. Now, Steel Will is not afraid to make strange knives. They make some really good ones, and then they make stuff like this. Now, this is not a bad knife. I want to be clear. Fit and finish, I mean, this one's filthy. This is a pass around, and that white G10 really takes on color. But fit and finish is great. Materials are good. It is, well, let's open it up and take a look. It is D2 steel. It's a nice drop point, right? It is steel liners that on one side with just a sort of support liner on this side. It is a very strangely made knife. The blade is D2. This one happens to be blacked out. It yells steel will at you on one side, Fjord on the other. This model happens to be the F71. It's got a nice deep carry pocket clip with flush mounted screws, although the clip itself is not down into the G10, which is a strange choice. But after that, this knife gets weird. It just does. It's got a lanyard space back there, which doesn't interfere with the blade or anything. It's got a G10 backspacer, which is black. Clip is deep carry, and as I said, it's flush-mounted screws, but the clip is not milled into the G10, so there's a little bit of a hookup there. The handle shape is odd. I mean, it's comfortable. Don't get me wrong, but it's enormous for the amount of blade that you get. By way of example, this is the bug out, which offers exactly the same amount of cutting. Look at the size of the handle on the Fjord as opposed to the bug out. It's just an odd choice. I mean, that's you or not. You're either going to like it or you won't, but I find it a little weird, which makes it kind of an awkward carry because it's big, right? As I said, it's a liner lock, and we're locked up at about 25%. The action is very good. It has a deployment. It's a front flipper thing. I mean, look how much that sticks out. It has a thumb stud, which nests into the liner here as part of the lockup, which means this is absolutely not for left-handed people. Now, you can flip the clip based on what I'm seeing here, but deployment, and I imagine you can swap, well, so here's the funny thing. You can unscrew this thumb stud if you want and flip it to the other side, but there's no cutout for it on the scale, so you couldn't really do that. This cutout here, you can get your thumb in there and roll it out, but it is awkward as hell. Now, as a lefty, if you hold this, yeah, you might be able to flick that. Look, this is a weird knife. And that is really going to be the tenor of the entire review. I like strange knives. Stuff that look a little wonky, that, you know, I mean, I'm a huge Dragonfly fan, and that is a weird knife all the way around. But this is weird to the point of interfering with function, and that's less cool. Now, I have carried it, and I have used it, and I mean, as a cutting tool, it's got a very basic blade, works quite well, but the rest of the knife is such an odd, it's like that line from Jurassic Park. They're so busy trying to figure out if they could do something, they never stop to ask if they should. Not all knives are for all people, and perhaps this just isn't the knife for me, but I don't like this knife very much, which is strange because I really like steel will knives. This one, it's just bulky and oddly designed. But hey, let's get the rest of the specs out of the way. Well, let's do some size comparisons. We already did it against the bug out, as I've shown you the handle thickness, but really it's about the same length as the bug out with, you know, a massive handle for reasons I'm not clear on. Here it is against the Mini Presidio 2. And again, these knives are very similar in overall dimension. This is closer in handle size, but much more comfortable. else can we compare it against? It's on the table. Here it is against the Rat Model 1. It is considerably smaller than the Rat 1. And here it is against my wife's Curtis Cruise. These knives are, well, very different in many ways. If you've got one of these, I don't want to tell you, look, again, this may just be a personality thing. I mean, I imagine there are people that hold this and say that is the most comfortable knife ever. I'm just not that person. And that means that because it's not that comfortable and because it's oddly designed, some of the design choices here just do not make a lot of sense to me. It's just, yeah, not really my knife. All right, you are looking at 3 inches of cutting on 3 1/4, well, just a little over 3 inches of D2 steel. The grip area, which is enormous, is 3 3/4. I do not like that deployment. The knife itself, from end to end, is 7.5 inches overall. Closed length is, 4.5 inches, because it's got this massive blade deployment knob thing sticking up off the top. The closed profile, it's got no flipper, right? You're coming in at 1 1/4 inches. It's not that much bigger than the bug out, but man, does it feel bigger in the pocket. I don't know. This is a weird knife. It's got some jimping on the back spacer, which gives it a little bit of grip. It's got a little bit of jimping right here, which I think is designed for your finger, so you know where you are on the end of the knife. It's got some jimping across the spine. It's got a nice fuller cut into the blade. It's got a very nice, robust blade. I'm not going to argue with that. The fuller is not full length, and you can't really flick it to deploy it. It's just there. So I guess maybe that's in case it's a blood groove and you need to, I don't even know. It's a weird knife. And that's actually where we're, yeah, let's weigh it. Maybe somebody cares. You know, it's funny. I had a whole different review in my head when I started with this knife. I was going to talk about the sort of nice blade shape, and it is a nice blade shape. And then as I sat here, I kind of looked at the stuff I had written down, and in the end, I just sort of dropped it. I mean, look, the G10 is nicely shaped. It's sculpted, right? But in the end, I dropped all that because a lot of things on this knife don't make sense. And that sort of ruins the rest. Coming in at 3.8 ounces for, what did we say? 3 inches of blade. It's heavy and it's bulky. Well, as many knife companies, Steel Will, my favorites, Artisan, Kaiser, you know, all these knife companies, they make knives that just don't work for me. In the end, the Steel Will Fjord here is a knife that just doesn't work for me. I can't complain about the materials. I can't complain about the action, which is very good. But yeah. Okay, so here's the deal. If you like this funky design, and if you have hands that need a big, grippy handle, even on a relatively small blade, these are what, about $65? You won't, if you like that part of it, you will enjoy this knife. But if you are looking for kind of a light, inexpensive, easy to carry D2 blade, this probably isn't for you. And on that note, wow, I usually don't do negative reviews, but like I said, I had a whole bunch of writing. I was going to talk about all these features. In the end, none of that makes any sense because in the end, this knife doesn't make a lot of sense. And there we are. This is the Steel Will Fjord. It is not the knife for me. Thank you for watching. I will have a much more positive review of something else down the road. Take care, guys.